for others. Some of you have businesses, some of you have clients, some of you have network marketing businesses, and you do so much more for others in your network marketing business that you don't even get to take care of your own self. How many of you have ever not that you have, but you've purchased people's packages for them. You've known people who purchased people's packages for them because they said, well, if I can help you get started, maybe you'll get going. Well, the challenge is they didn't want to get going, so there's no way you can help them get started. All of this to say, how do we fix this, Sean? How do we get out of our otherness? How do we get out of sacrificing, being in a zombie apocalypse of our own when it comes to our own health, when it comes to our own finances? How many of you, if you had the money back that you spent on other people, in the hopes, not that you spent on other people for like gifts and parties and things like that, how many of you might have a bigger bank account if you had the money back that you spent on other people, wishing and hoping that it would be the kickstart for them to get going? Drop a $sign if your bank account would be a lot bigger if you stopped spending money on helping other people find their motivation. See, money motivates you. It doesn't always motivate other people. I've been in the estate planning, the estate planning world. I did that still in it. Advising people and giving them suggestions. I did it professionally for 7 years, and I helped people understand the differences between wills and trusts and why a will hardly ever performs. But one of the things that's true in estate planning is that money will very rarely ever bring people together. Money will usually tear them apart. And what happens is that when we get into this zombie-like mentality, this zombie-like philosophy of give, serve, then we change it from giving to serving. I'm just serving. How many of you have changed your giving because you ran out of give? You changed the word give to serve because it sounds nicer. Instead of being dragged over the coals and having every bit of your skin picked off your bones and you're giving, you now call it serving. Drop an S if you've changed your giving to serving just because it sounds nice. I serve people. I so love to serve people. I just want to serve people, and the buzzards are still picking the meat off your bones, and you call it service instead of being stolen from. Oh, see, that's a zombie consciousness. Good Wednesday morning. It is Wednesday morning. No, is it Thursday morning? What day is today? Is it Wacky Wednesday? No, yesterday was Wednesday. I did the 12-week mastermind call. It's Thursday. Non-thankful Thursday, Sean. Well, thanks very much for that. So we call it service, and it's literally stealing. You're allowing people to steal your joy, steal your light, steal your breath. And what are they stealing it from? They're stealing it away from you. Now, how many of you, because you're in such great service, listen, if we can't laugh about it, you're going to just crawl up in the fetal position and have a real big issue. So here's the challenge. Here's my question to you. Next question, questions with Sean, interrogations with Sean. So here's the question. How many of you that in your service, the greatest thing that you can do to be of service to other people, how many of you have a challenge? How many of your family has a challenge with your service? Drop an F in the chat. I'm in service, but your family doesn't get all of you. Your family has an issue. Your family doesn't, they don't get the things that they should. Sometimes I have some amazing moms who are friends and teachers and mentors to me. How many of you moms, listen carefully, moms, because if you're not a mom, this won't make sense. How many of you know some days, I've been told this, that it's a bread and cheese kind of day or a bread and peanut butter kind of day? Go fix your own sandwich. Drop a B in the chat. Drop a B in the chat if it is your, if you know, hey, listen, it's your bread and go make a peanut butter sandwich. Why? Because it's zombie apocalypse in your brain. It's zombie apocalypse in your brain. So how do we fix this, Sean? Okay, you pointed out the obvious. Thank you, Captain Obvious to the lobby, Captain Obvious to the front deck, Captain Obvious to the forward deck, please, so we can throw you off the boat. So how do we fix this? Well, first of all, you've got to decide you're no longer going to be a zombie, which means what? Which means you wind up becoming aware. And in your awareness, you wind up realizing how valuable your time is. When you start to realize how much of your life you spend in zombie land, in habitual actions, in actions that you're not even fully aware of. See, the brain does not want you to listen. How many of you have had a bigger than average, listen carefully. This is how the law of attraction works. I'm just going to test it. I'm going to test it. I'm pretty sure I know the result, but I'm going to test it right now. How many of you, since I started this in the last 10 minutes, even maybe just prior to getting on this call, you had a distraction that could have, possibly might have kept you from getting on this call? It was a distraction big enough that you had to make a decision. How many of you had a distraction that forced you into a decision about whether to attend this call or not? Drop a D in the chat. This is called the law of attraction. Follow me on this. Hang out with me. Here's how zombie land works. Your old story is so strong. It literally had access to this information I was going to share with you prior to you becoming consciously aware. I know that sounds woo-woo. Somebody go get the white coat for Sean. I'm telling you, this is how this works. When you start to go after your goal, when you start to chip away, right? The Michelangelo, how you making the statue David? He says, I chippy away everything, not a Michael. And not a David. I'll figure it out. I'll get it better. I'm too focused on the accent. I forget the story. Michael, how you making the statue David? I chippy away everything, not David. So as I come along and I'm chipping away everything, not you, all of a sudden, distractions show up. And you think, oh my gosh, I was just getting into this and I spilled my coffee. I tore my pants. Follow me? That's zombie land. That's to keep you in zombie. I'm telling you, this is how it works. I've done this for 45 years. You can argue with me. Only one of us will be arguing. So now all of a sudden, you're becoming aware. You're going to make a decision. You're going to make a decision that you're going to decide what's value and what's non-value. Once you decide what's value, then you can decide what's valuable. And then once you decide what's valuable, you can ask, am I living in my values? See, when you live in your values, you step out of the zombie apocalypse, the zombie state of mind. Just making sense? So what do? Write your intentions down right now. If you've got a piece of paper and you're not driving, you're operating heavy equipment or doing brain surgery. I do have some surgeons who are brain surgeons that listen to me. Probably not while they're doing surgery, but nonetheless. So if you're not doing any of these serious attention needing activities right now, write down an intention for today. And if your brain's going, oh, geez, I don't know. Welcome to zombie land. Welcome to zombie land. If you don't know an intention for the day, do you believe? Listen, I need you to be a little bit. I need you to be a little bit vulnerable right now. If you went, oh man, what value would I want? If you went that way, if you said that, drop a Z in the chat. if you want, geez, what value am I going to live today? Drop a Z in the chat. I need you to be a little vulnerable, and I need you to take ownership of the fact that you couldn't instantly come up with an intention, which means, follow me on this, which means you're going to be stuck in zombie land. So we have one person that's being truthful, because I can promise you, well, I'm not even going to go there. So here's the case. So now if you decide what is going to be what's going to be the value you want to live by? Happiness. What's the value? Clarity. What's the value? Peace. See what happens when all of a sudden, see what happens when you take yourself out of this zombie apocalypse of just letting the world run you instead of you run the world. What's that song by Beyonce? Women run the world, right? Isn't it time for you to run your world instead of being run by it? Yes, but I'm a mom and I need to do that. You're a mom, for God's sake. You make things happen. You make the world possible. I saw a post this morning, 7,987,665,000 people on this planet. Moms are responsible for 7,986,665. Men, 0. You make everything possible. So it's time. I think it's time. It wasn't Gandhi. Hang on. The Dalai Lama said this, and I love this quote. He said, listen carefully. Listen carefully. Let me bring the mic just a little bit closer. The Dalai Lama said this. He said he believed that the world will be saved by the Western woman. I believe the world will be saved by women. I don't necessarily believe, I think possibly the reason that he was saying the Western woman is because of their sheer economic strength versus other women across the planet. So if women are going to be saved, if the world is going to be saved by women and women are going to do the saving, isn't it time to decide what needs to be saved? Isn't it time to decide what fundamental foundational sources that you already have in existence you're going to begin to use properly? Time, your time, not others' time. Reward, being compensated for the energy and the effort and the frequency and the vibration and the joy that you put into the world, being compensated for that, not just being this never-ending source of unlimited resources of service and gratitude. And I think it's time to put a little shift on that. Now, here's what's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen, ladies, is that when you start to do things for yourself, you're going to be given some titles. I'd love in the chat. You can go R-rated. You can go PG-13 rated. I'd love to what are some of the things that you get called behind the scenes, behind the curtains by other possibly women? What are the things that you get called when you start doing things for yourself? Witch on a broomstick, selfish, right? Yep. Rhymes with witch. Yep. Selfish, all of these things. So how does that make you feel if all of a sudden you're going to get called all these things? You're going to go up and go do it. You know it. You know you're going to be called all these things. Stuck up, right? Cold. You're going to be called all these things. Egotistic. There's a guy trying to be safe. So if that's the case, why even go there? I'd like you to think of it this way. What if you're, too bougie? That's a very nice way. What if you all of a sudden became self-full? See, the challenge is that sometimes you have to be a biatch. Sometimes you have to be cold. Sometimes you have to be too bougie. Sometimes you have to be egotistic. Sometimes you have to be selfish. The challenge is that it stops there. The challenge is that it stops there. Follow me. It stops there, and you don't cross over the bridge, because when you become, listen carefully, here's the paradigm. Here's the zombie apocalypse that exists. When you, and you've done this, every one of you guys and gals, every one of you has done this. You have crossed over that bridge from where you appeared to be selfish and became self-full, and you had more to give. You crossed over the being a witch on a broomstick and then became the most agreeable person of service that you could without sacrifice. Too many of us serve with sacrifice. What if you could serve in freedom? This is what the attainment of your goals are for. This is why I started Dangerous Consciousness. This is why I'm having all of these conversations about consciousness. It's not about script. It's not about algorithms. It's not about the clothes you wear, the shoes you got on. It's not about how you sleep or how you wake up. It's about consciousness. And when you begin to awaken your consciousness, when you begin to access your consciousness, when you begin to have a truer understanding of your best calling, I'm not going to call it your higher calling, your best calling, which is usually an elevated frequency and vibration of oneself, life changes forever. The challenge is that when you're the witch on the broomstick, you're learning to find your new way, find your new path, and you are breaking up the pattern that everybody has. They say things to you. How many of you, drop a 1 in the chat if anybody has ever said this to you? Have you lost your mind? Drop a 1 in the chat if you, on your way to bitchdom, have decided that you are going to break the pattern. Drop a 1 in the chat if somebody said, have you lost your mind? What are you doing? How many of your dearest friends have come to you and kind of put their arm around you energetically, metaphorically, physically, and said, what are you thinking? And because the zombies got a hold of you, said, you know, I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know what I was thinking. And the reason that you don't know what you were thinking is because you were in what I call the frontier of your life. The frontier of your life is that place where the rules are different, where you get to establish the rules. You're no longer the zombie moving around in a given pattern. How many of your days, ladies, I know this is tough, how many of your days are predictable? Somebody asks, where are you? Somebody asks, do you know where Lala is? Well, let's see, it's 10 to 8. She should be taking the kids to school now. How many of you don't call your friends because you know their pattern? Drop a P in the chat if you know somebody's pattern so well, you know when you can and when you cannot call them. I'm not saying that because you have a pattern, that's an apocalyptic mindset. What I am saying is that if people know your pattern, how the hell are you ever going to get out of your pattern if everybody always has you locked into it? If you believe in the law of attraction and the law of connection, then all of a sudden, everything that everybody else is thinking about falls into and flows into you. I had appointments yesterday. Listen, I will tell you, and this isn't a what do you call it? A declaration. I don't do appointments. I don't do appointments well, so I don't do appointments. I will make appointments, and there's a rare chance that I'll show up. I had an appointment yesterday with a very dear friend from Slovenia and one of their business partners who's wildly successful, 7-figure income earner who they wanted me to introduce me to them and me. I set my phone down yesterday in the truck and couldn't find it all day long and wasn't really looking for it. I had stuff to do in the now. I'm not saying that's a good philosophy to have. It's probably a very horrible philosophy to have for people who are stuck in predictability land. What I am saying is what kind of freedom would you have if you could leave your phone by itself? The people that were important to me were on the ranch here. The people that were of value to me could figure out how to get a hold of me. And it's usually through my bride. So what I'm sharing is this idea, this concept, this belief, this opportunity, this philosophy of what would it mean for you to be able to step out of this zombie apocalypse? What if you were a little early on the patterns that you have? Drop the kids off a little earlier instead of rushing. What if you had enough time to go through a breakfast place and get a water or an orange juice? I know all of that. Somebody's going to go, oh, do you know what's in that orange juice and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I know. You know what I'm saying? To create a little special memory. To go through your favorite bakery and get something that's Whole Foods or organic. Go by the grocery store, buy them an apple, run and get an apple. What I'm saying is how do you break up the pattern? In order to break up the pattern, we have to break up the pattern. And it has to start with the source foundational activities that we do, which means the way you wake up. How many of you woke up with your head on the same pillow in the same direction that you went to sleep in? How many of you woke up on facing the same direction that you woke up yesterday and the day before that, the day before that? I'm not talking about whether side or this, but your head's always been at that part of the bed for the last 100 years. What if tonight you sleep with your head down at the foot of the bed? Other than your spouse going, what the heck are you doing? I don't know, something crazy. Yeah, I'm breaking up the pattern. Do you realize some people who have done this, I'm just forewarning, they have had dreams they've never had before. It's not to doing simply with the orientation of where your head is. It's simply to do with the fact that your brain is all messed up because you've broken up the pattern. What if you went to sleep with a half hour, dare I say hour, of no phone before you go to bed? What if you were able to sit in a chair in a quiet room and simply ponder your tomorrow so that you could have more of what you want and less of what you don't? Some of you are too busy. Here's the story getting ready to go to bed. Oh my God, I'm going to bed later than I expected. I didn't get as much done as I needed to get done. You wake up still exhausted. I didn't get the sleep I needed to do, and you're already 6 hours behind, and you haven't even started your day. And then all of a sudden things start to pile up, and you haven't even left the house, and calamity has hit. And yet, because you're so good with calamity, see, I don't want to be good with calamity. I don't want to have calamity practice. I don't want to be a professional calamitier. So give yourself some space every hour, check in 1 minute, 60 seconds, give yourself a chance to just breathe. Did I move closer towards my goals or farther away? You activate the reticular activating system. You take the 20 million bits of data that's coming into this beautiful body of yours through all of your senses, 20 million bits of data per second, 20 million bits of data per second. And in those 20 million bits of data per second, you're only consciously aware of 40. And then not all of that makes it into the long-term memory. This is just short-term, don't kill me memory. So how do we pay attention to how do we decide what 40 do we decide to pay attention to? Our reticular activating system. The brain looks for two things. Will this kill me, or how fast can I recognize the pattern? And if you're constantly looking for the pattern, 39 of those are pattern probably conversations. And one that stands out that's cataclysmic is something that's totally different. And the only way a cataclysmic change happens in those 40 is when it's something that literally just messes up our day. Spilled coffee, torn shirt, realize that you forgot to put this on. You got two different socks on. How many of you have ever had two different shoes on? Really? Do you plan on going out with two different shoes that day? No, this is how you create calamity in your life. It's because you were breaking the zombie apocalypse. Most of the times, two shoes go on differently when you have a very important appointment. Yes. So how do we pay attention? Begin to break the pattern. Literally, if you're sitting in a chair that can spin, do this. Whee! Well, that's just silly. I know, silly's good. Silly's a good way to break the pattern because sadness doesn't usually feel so hot. So I love you bunches. I appreciate you. Become fully aware. Write down, take a little, do 2 columns of an Excel spreadsheet. One, do every half hour, 8, 8:30, 9, 9:30, 10, 10:30, right? And just write down pattern or new. In the last half hour, was it more pattern or was it more new? And watch all of the P's that go up. And you'll find there's a lot of P's in your life. Pattern is what brings familiarity. It takes a lot of, your brain is 3%, 4% of your body's weight, body's mass. Yet what it does is it uses 20%, consumes 20% of your body's resources. And when you start to break the patterns, some of you may get, oh man, I got a headache. That's old story. That's new neural patterns being created in your mind. Headaches aren't a bad thing. They'll instantly go away, right? Because if you start doing the pattern again, they'll instantly go away. So now the question becomes, what do you do different? How much discomfort are you willing to go through to have what you want? So there you go. There's some conversations. I love you bunches. I appreciate you so very, 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 very much. Instagram, have an amazing pattern breaking kind of day. Follow me, share this with somebody. If you want to learn more about the live event going to go on at the ranch here, June 22nd through the 24th, you can go to dcwaiting.com and get your name on the list, and we'll send you out some information on that. I love you tons. I appreciate you. Till then, bye for now. There's an end. All righty. And I think I've got, yes, YouTube. Love you bunches. Appreciate you. Have an incredible YouTube kind of day.